So is the New York Times article?
I just put the New York Times article. I'll put some more articles. They all wrote.
No, I mean honestly, the Al Jazeera article is perfect because that's a declaration against interest, right? Al Jazeera would want to report that the Israelis destroyed the greenhouses, but in the Al Jazeera article it says there are looters, that the militia that was defending the greenhouses wasn't paid, so they walked away, and then looters slowly dismantled all the greenhouses.
Right, and as I was going to mention, similarly, the Wikipedia article that the guy posted says that most of the synagogues, the buildings were scavenged. The synagogues were destroyed by Palestinians immediately after the evacuation. They set fire to the buildings.
This is exactly what I said earlier.
Yeah.
They couldn't.
It was to make money.
Couldn't create with a literal greenhouse. You leave that alone, it'll grow food for you. They broke it. That's what they did.
Okay, so
and you're lying because it said the settlers themselves destroyed them because they were afraid that they weren't going to get recompensated.
So I will take my mock privileges right now. I don't want to come up and be a mock, but resistance. You mentioned some comments earlier to somebody else on the stage because we want to make sure this is about Israelis, not Jews, right? But you said to somebody on stage, I think it was Zach, you told him, "Your big-nosed brothers." Do you want to comment on that, or you want to go down immediately?
Yo, why are you letting this retarded lady come up here and start running her?
Yo, shut your fucking mouth.
Yeah, lucky we don't pull out the big guns. You fuck.
Okay, is there any people that want to have proper discourse here, or do you just want to interrupt like you think you're in Amir's room? Where you just
I think we should make clear that if you're pro creativity, constructive human organization, unfortunately you are against the Palestinians.
Somebody boomed the room. Okay, this is Israel and Palestine Debate Room Part 2 by Roger. This is Wisdom. See if we can collect what was left of that exciting room. The greenhouses. Yeah. Yeah, that Resistance, he's a real piece of shit.
What?
That Schwartz from fucking New York, he is a real piece of shit.
Yeah, I mean, people like that shouldn't be allowed to live. Like, they're making the world worse just by, I mean, there's a guy walking the street right now, by the way. This guy just walked in front of my car with no crosswalk. I can't even describe him, but he's wearing a gold chain. He's not wearing a coat. It's very cold out. Could be selling cocaine. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, the worst thing I think about that guy, I don't know which is worse, is that he's stupid or hateful, but he's both. He's stupid.
They go hand in hand.
He's hateful and stupid, and it's like the worst of the worst. Like, you're a fucking idiot, and I can't even love you because you're so hateful. I want to love you, but you're so repulsive and hateful and idiotic. I just want to smush you out like a cigarette.
What do you think? What do you think psychiatrists and psychologists have been dealing with for 100 years? Stupid, hateful, violent people.
Right. That's what it is.
He was arrested. He attacked a Jewish guy in the streets and had to go.
Really?
He had to go to court.
Surprised. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's like a psycho. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah,
he sounds like a fucking crazy person.
I
mean, that's why. Look, by the way, I appreciate your encouragement, and I know that a lot of my fears are unfounded, but some of my fear, and I have this, at least I'm unmasked on Club. I mean, I'm very accessible online, what I'm saying. So, like, I don't really want to blow up, because if it only takes like one crazy person to think, I'm going to go kill this guy, and then they go to your house. They're like, I can find out where he lives. I'm doing right now is driving from my house to the grocery store. Like, I could be shot in the brain right now by an assassin.
You can communicate without getting angry, but to ask for permission continually, can I speak? Can I speak? Can you please not interrupt me? That is just ineffective projection. That's meaningless
projection. But I'm not always
projection.
in a position to be talking loudly. So fighting for the floor sometimes, like now I'm in my car, so I can talk a little louder. But when I'm at my house, like, I don't always want to talk loud to like fight for the floor,
The point is asking for permission and saying, you're interrupting me. Can I speak? Can I speak? You have to look at it in terms of like what you're uploading to somebody's brain. That is a complete waste of your time and a complete waste of everybody's time. Like, especially you. Just say what you want to say and say it, and just project your voice. But to sit there and just moan and complain and it's a total waste of your time. It's a total waste of your time. Just say what the fuck you want to say and end it.
Say what you mean to say.
Yeah, I mean, but dude, that was so funny with what's his face? Barthology?
I don't know. What was that? I wasn't. Who was that? What did he say?
He said when the Palestinians took over the Gaza Strip, they killed the livestock, the animals that were on the farms. They destroyed the greenhouses. They burned the buildings. And it was all because of hate. And they could have used that. But it was Barthologist that came in, and then Edward is... Anyway, do you think Edward's really blind? Because it says on his profile that he's blind.
Oh, really? Maybe he is. He sounds like an idiot. I don't think he's especially hateful, but I mean, they're all stupid. Listen.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Can I tell you a story? I'm going to tell you a little story. So this morning on I just did that. I just wasted your time. I'm wasting your time even more. Wasting time.
No, I'm just saying, when you're in a debate room, just say it. Don't ask for permission to say what you want to say. Just fucking say it.
Who are you, mate? I'm Clarence Claymore. Did you watch that video?
No.
All right, you clicked like on it. So this woman posted online about the Ending Indoctrination in Schools Act. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I saw it, yeah.
And the Ending Indoctrination in Schools Act will prohibit the teaching of subjects like the Holocaust, the women's suffrage movement, and the civil rights movement. And I looked into it because I thought this isn't true, and it turns out that it's not true, that it doesn't prohibit the teaching of the Holocaust or the suffrage movement or the civil rights movement. It doesn't prohibit the teaching of any of these movements. And I said, it doesn't prohibit the teaching of these movements. And they were basically, they were like, no, it kind of does. And that's my point, that people are stupid, and they're very stupid, and it's frightening.
Agreed.
Well, the worst part is stupid people can still project a lot of propaganda. That guy Resistance, I mean, it's also interesting because the most toxic people don't stick around. They do not have staying power, and their profiles do eventually get deleted. So, unless you actually come on here to project balance, equilibrium, stillness, joy, and happiness, things like that, you're never going to really be as effective as you could be otherwise. But anyways, yeah, he's a total piece of shit, piece of scum. Nick, what's going on?
No, I know he's just like a random. Yeah, sorry. He's a random troll. Yes, all right. What?
Which troll are you talking about now?
Schwartz Resistance.
Oh, I've not seen that person.
Yeah.
He is a violent person. He has been arrested for attacking Jewish people, and he hired a Jewish lawyer, he claims, to get him off. But yeah, people do get arrested for violent attacks, and there are no repercussions. Two Venezuelan migrants just murdered a man in my neighborhood 2 nights ago, and they had been previously arrested multiple times and released. No cash bail system, but finally we got a new state's attorney, a new attorney general, and so they're not releasing the murderers. Isn't that great news?
But Edmund, your city's so fucked with that idiot mayor they reelected. I don't know though. I think that the mayor of Los Angeles is worse than than your new one of Chicago.
Yeah, Bass is really bad. Really bad.
Dude, she is horrible. She is fucking stupid.
I know. The thing is, it's neurological and it's IQ. Some people are not fast, and so I don't know. Everybody just votes with this like anti-white mindset, and we're getting the worst results as a result of that. But the whole thing with the water supply and the federal government, the Army Corps of Engineers having to bring water back in, like even here in Chicago, I found out that there's this nonprofit group called the Chicago River, like Friends of the River, and so when we get rain, the Chicago Metropolitan Water District limits the runoff into the river for ecological reasons. Meanwhile, the pressure builds up and the water and the shit comes back up in hundreds, thousands of houses because they're not utilizing the river to flush the system because of ecology. So you just can't win when liberals control everything. I mean, and these are all elected positions. The Water Reclamation District is an elected position, and these are people who are not engineers, have not worked in, it's a bureaucracy basically. So we have a huge bureaucracy problem, huge. And Doge and Trump and Musk, I mean, it's limited. They can put out their propaganda, but what they're really only doing is limiting the new spending. They can't even retroactively go back because that money's already been spent.
The other problem too is you look at it now, like Trump's actually doing the right thing where he's forcing government workers to come back in the office 5 days a week or take a bailout or take a buyout, right? And he's also saying like he removed pronouns. You cannot use pronouns in your emails.
He can say people have to come back into the office, but that doesn't mean people actually have to come back into the office. There's no accountability, and nobody knows where anybody's at. It's not like a rat out system. If you're in management or executive services, it's a bureaucratic forever position until you fucking give it up.
Yeah, but don't worry, Chicago will keep borrowing 80 cents on every dollar to fund that pension.
Literally. Yeah, 80 cents on every dollar is borrowed to pay out the current monthly nut. And the monthly nut, in Washington, D.C., see, the thing is, everybody's retiring. And so we have this huge generational shift that is happening. And so they're going to hopefully downsize the government aggressively, significantly. But see, the government isn't just the people. Those are all administrative salary expenses. It's this funding that they're sending overseas month after month. I mean, what was that news article about the Afghan army getting like billions of dollars in some like third party transfer or something like that we were still paying? I mean, we were funding the Taliban up until just like a couple months ago. So the whole how the Treasury and State Department and how all this money gets sent all around, it's wild. But anyways,
I'm shocked when Powell didn't cut rates this week, but I think Trump's going to get in there and be like, "You're fucking cutting rates." He's going to have to.
I don't know.
Who knows?
He seems like he wants to demonstrate. So they always want to demonstrate authority and say they have tools in their arsenal, which is just calling the interest rate what you want it. I mean, America could have a big renaissance and a huge cultural and economic boom if we manage it smartly. But the first thing you do before you start reinvesting is you secure the perimeter of your fucking corporation, aka America. So I just hope they aggressively secure, like overly aggressively secure, and they withdraw our soldiers and troops and everything from overseas. I mean, I just think like they have to start spending our money wisely. Like, there's no reason to even do international operations. We have so many security problems here at home. I mean, they need to basically declare martial law and a national emergency and kick out all of these sanctuary city governors by arresting them. Like, if they were to do an actual takeover of the major cities, like the federal government were to take it over, I don't know. At this point, I think it's like the obvious move strategically, but it would be totally,
So, another fucked up city? Seattle. Dude, I saw a YouTube clip, or maybe it was an Instagram reel. They just upped minimum wage to Seattle to $21 an hour. And guess what? Every business is shut down. Like, every restaurant, every small business, every, like, cafe, it's like, it's a ghost town there.
How do you turn a profit at $21 an hour if you have 3 customers buying 3 coffees at $9 plus the tip you get? It's like, so you start a business to basically create a jobs program and go bankrupt. The whole system, even the whole retail establishment process of trying to open up a retail storefront is so convoluted, complicated, and stupid. We need cities that like let retail storefronts boom, and they need to fund like the makeup on the face of these fucking things. In fact, the IRS has 750 offices throughout the country, which are technically really just shakedown offices. And what they need to do is turn all those over to the Small Business Administration and make them startup incubator hubs, and then shut them down eventually. But yeah, I mean, we need to gut the whole system, in my opinion, and gut it. Like, shut it down. Like, Department of Education, shut down. Did you see Massey proposed a 1-sentence bill to shut down the Department of... That's what we need.
Massey's like really, really easy going about there. He's very blunt about it.
He is the commander. He is the president, and it's his executive branch. These are executive agencies. He doesn't want to ruin his power, but at the same time, he really has to fucking perform open heart surgery on this country. He's got to do it. It's if when he leaves, it could be all over. He needs to radically transform America. And I know he's doing it, and they're doing it, but like, he needs to eventually get rid of multiple agencies and shut them down, without a doubt.
Yeah. All right, do your Jonathan Bing impression.
But I'm on the ground, Daphne, doing mortgages. And thank God you were there, Daphne, because if you weren't there, I could have got caught up on rape. Daphne was there when the girl made the fake accusation against me. Daphne, thank you, Daphne. Thank God Daphne was there. All right, let's get back to the real estate portion of the show. Welcome, McZed.
Or how about Cindy Stomple? You do a good one there.
McZed, did you boom that room? I know you did.
No, I did not. I actually got cut off at the boom.
You were saying something at the end there, but
yes, I was, because they were saying you can't. What was it, Ed? Ed was trying to argue you can't collect on a debt unless you own it, and I quickly corrected him. I said, absolutely not. You may be dealing in the debt collection side, where like you should be doing that. I deal in the legal side where I see what people actually do, and I assure you, you can, and some people try, to collect on debts that they do not own.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
That was all I wanted to say, but then the room got boomed in the middle of that declaration. Hey, Pamela, how you doing?
I'm very good, how are you?
Doing okay. Trying on an accent for the day?
Yeah. Why not? I'm not gonna do very good in my accents, but anyway. Is this the wisdom himself, the wisdom of all wise ones?
so what do you think about the idea of? I mean, because did you see the pictures of the 250,000 Palestinians marching back north?
Yeah, that looked epic.
Yeah.
That looked like Exodus. Yeah. That was crazy. I'm serious. Like, what else does it fucking look like?
Were there any parting of the waters?
It did look so biblical, didn't it?
I saw a few burning bushes.
I'm just saying, it was millions of Semites marching the desert.
Yeah.
What do you want? Either way, okay. So here's my insight, and it's actually I think somewhat productive in conversations on the Israel-Palestine issue. Okay, so here's my thinking. Being civilized or modern, what that roughly really means is an acceptance of the stories of the past that the different communities have carried that all like accord together, right? We all kind of like politely shut the door on like the story of Hercules and Zeus and Thor, but we're totally on board with the Sicarii and the ancient Ming dynasty and the Mongolians and the Huns and the Indians and the Africans. We've got a lot of history that we pretty much are in accord with, a lot in a modern sense. However, there are some very firm holdouts. Now, here's the holdout. Here's why it's a holdout. They wouldn't necessarily appear to be a holdout because they will agree with all new advances of science. They'll just like agree and adopt them. But they will disagree with all history before the year 800. Now, they have to do that like religiously, because like if they accept too much of just the secular worldview, they'll have to agree and consent to a lot of cultures that their entire culture is founded in opposition to. So they have like a fascistic devotion to everything past 800 can be true, everything before 800, just like in most communities, is a fairy tale realm of ancient history where people just make up stuff and you can't really know. Now, the reason I say that's relevant is because I realized that when the Muslims criticize Israel by saying that it is a European construct from a bunch of Europeans coming from Europe, it strikes me how little they all must be in European history. They don't know any of it. They wouldn't know the difference between Slovenia, Slovakia, Transylvania, Germany, France, Italy, the Papal States. They wouldn't know what the fuck that has to do with anything. They wouldn't know what it means that Europeans show up. You got to understand, they're hiding their what's the word? Ignorance. They're hiding their ignorance in the word Europe. That is an entire textbook of history that they are not touching. Because the word European is enough
to shut down the conversation. And if they were to actually delve into European history, ask the French, the Germans, the Romans, ask any of those people keeping records what they say happened, their entire argument would be dismantled. They would understand why the state of Israel exists. But they can't accept that history. So they don't acknowledge it. They simply say a bunch of Europeans did it. And they don't know what that means. They don't know anything about Europe. So go ahead, ask them. Ask them for their familiarity with the gang of Europeans that founded Israel.
You know what a claim that I always hear is that Herzl was anti-Semitic or a Jew hater.
He was a little bit.
A little bit?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a lot.
I mean, I have his biography. Anyways, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page. I'm just wondering what the evidence is that they use, or what have you read that says that Herzl was an anti-Semite? Because it can't be. It's got to be further. Okay, let me see here.
Yeah, his political view was more akin to more like a communist. He was more like, a radical liberal intellectual that wanted to nation build. And he saw a pressing problem for himself personally and a certain segment of Europe that heard his voice. Because you really should look into the Dreyfus Affair to understand Herzl's impetus. And France was ripped apart, and France gets ripped apart a lot in that century. Just like there's a whole bunch of stuff, they fall apart a whole bunch, and then it just crumbles because of this false accusation to a Jew that a non-Jew wants overturned because it's just a false accusation, and he faces insurmountable difficulty. This Gentile trying to overrule a false conviction. And that's what Herzl watched. Herzl reports on it. And he, culturally, he's more on the side of the anti-Dreyfusards. He would want this whole thing shut up and just Dreyfus to be convicted and the whole thing to go away. But he just watches France ignite. I mean, there was rioting, marching in the street to kill the Jews. Freaked him out. And then, he spent 10 years until he, dropped dead building the State of Israel. Herzl isn't the model of a Torah Jew that we would imagine forming the State of Israel. He's more like Paul. He's a Jew surrounded by Gentiles who frantically needs a miracle to happen in Israel. And he writes with the last, breath in his lungs. Hey, Kava, how you doing?
Hello, I'm okay. What about yourselves?
Doing okay. Have you been to Germany lately?
I went, what was it, June?
Where to?
Just my hometown, Hamburg. Actually, yeah, just my hometown.
Yeah, my dad's from Hamburg.
Oh, really? That's so cool. Small world.
Yep.
That's so nice.
And I work for a German company, and we have headquarters outside of.
Been to Hamburg, Nick?
Yeah, we have headquarters.
Maybe you guys know the same spots.
In Hamburg and in Frankfurt.
Nice. Where in
Frankfurt
Hamburg
is where my grandfather worked.
What did you say?
I said Frankfurt is where my grandfather worked.
Where in Hamburg? Or where did he live in Hamburg?
I'm not exactly sure, but It's been so long since I've been to Hamburg. It's been like 25 years.
Oh, wow. It's been a long time. Yeah, it's a beautiful city. But that's a long time, for sure.
I'm still working on my long-term scheme to travel around Bischofsheim.
I know. Yeah, you told me about it.
And I'm expanding it a bit because Frankfurt looks like a really worthwhile spot to investigate. A lot of great notable figures from there.
Yeah, I'm reading about Herzl on Wikipedia, and there's always that Ottoman issue that always comes up with the history revisionists or the J word haters on this app. They always seem to forget to talk about the Ottoman Empire.
Oh, when he negotiated with the Sultan?
No, this thing called the JOLC, the Jewish Ottoman Land Company.
Okay.
Anyways, there's so much on the Wikipedia page. I don't even want to relate it.
Well, there were already existing Zionist organizations. Like Herzl didn't invent it whole cloth. He united and ignited a bunch of existing Jewish organizations. They were already trying to relocate Jews to Israel.
Yeah. Anyways, so this was just a follow-up room to the previous room because Edward does hold a lot of rooms, and the fact that Resistance gets platformed a lot on this app, and I don't understand why. And even I understand from the opposing side because he's an African American, screaming and ranting and saying all types of toxic shit. But you would think that even some of the more level-headed Free Palestine people would still be abhorred at his demeanor, what he says, just how disgustingly vulgar he is.
I don't know how often you listen in like the Free Palestine crowd, but like they say some pretty odious shit.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying Resistance schmuck, is particularly disgusting, and he does live in New York supposedly, and he did attack a Jewish guy supposedly. But anyways, I'm just saying that he is a particular turd.
Well, I mean, if that's true, he'll probably get picked up by the cops eventually.
No, he says he hired a Jewish attorney. Anyways, everything he says is retarded and stupid. No reason to even bring him up.
That doesn't matter. If you're an asshole, you go to jail.
Yeah. I mean, Zach and I were talking that like psychology and therapists and psychiatrists have been dealing with stupid, hateful people who have, legal and psychiatric mental health problems for 100 years plus. Here in Chicago by the lake, they used to have a sanitarium where if you were, one of these angry, violent people, I mean, they would treat you with giving you a very beautiful place to relax. Like back in the 1910s or 20s or 30s, I guess, when the economy in America was great, and therapy and sanitariums were a thing. They were like places where you could go to relax, basically. I don't know, maybe they had archaic, horrific medical practices, what they were doing to people, like lobotomies or something like that, but I could see how society could say to themselves, yeah, this guy Resistance is a public threat. We're going to have to lobotomize him.
Lobotomies seem alright.
I'd lobotomize him.
I'd lobotomize him too. I mean, you just take a metal bolt, you pull it back real quick, releases quickly, and then boom.
Guys. Lobotomizing someone is the same thing as like murdering someone. All you're doing is admitting defeat in communication. That's all that's happening.
I mean, isn't it?
I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't say the magic words to get this guy to act the way I wanted.
One magic word.
So ice pick to the eye.
Isn't that technically what a lobotomy is? They put a metal spike in your brain and like wiggle it around, and they call that a lobotomy.
Yeah. It's an ice pick to the skull. It cracks through the skull a little bit, and then it just, frontal lobe. Nice. I actually have a friend who's a neurologist or neuropsychologist, I think. I don't know. She looks at brain patterns. Either way. Yeah, you're just admitting defeat. Like, if you can't
talk to the guy, can't convince him. Killing people is always a solution. We could always kill the entirety of the world and only procreate from like a certain select group, and then that's it. Keep everyone in line.
I mean, I hear you doing it sometimes, but I think
killing the stragglers.
No, engaging with this moron. But I think the only way, you're saying we're admitting defeat by wanting to lobotomize him, but I think the only way to engage with him is by shouting.
No.
Sorry, who are you talking about? I was on the phone.
Schwartz Resistance.
Just mute yourself. Resistance. They were talking about resistance. But I'm saying you don't have to actually communicate to everyone. Most people really just want you to listen. If you were to just listen to everybody, you'd be their best friend. Like, you have to say absolutely nothing, just let them ramble on with their nonsense. And then, like, if you redirect them slightly while saying, yes, I agree with you, you've probably just gotten what you wanted without an ice pick to the eye socket.
Yeah, but you're coming from the premise that everyone actually wants to have a dialogue and a conversation. Some people literally are just interrupters. They try to distract on purpose and trigger. Like, that's not the same basis that I want to have a conversation.
Okay.
So those are not people that I just want to have to let talk. I just don't want to even engage.
So I think the problem is particularly like the model of Clubhouse, that if like you were locked in a room, let's say with resistance, not a physical room, just a Clubhouse room, and then you were only talking to each other, then your silence would be listening. However, when there's other people, there's the anticipation of someone jumping in. So no one ever actually feels like anyone's being listened to on Clubhouse, which is why they're always ranting and yelling, because they're desperately hoping someone will hear them. But the reality is the people that are like helping the most are the people that are just listening. Anyone that actually responds on a point someone made, that's when you're making someone's day on Clubhouse. And these people that are just like ranting and raving, you don't redirect them by talking at them, because they're not in a mode to listen. You redirect them by letting them hear that you heard them, which is easier in a one-on-one environment, which is why therapy is not.
Well, I was telling Zach. I was telling Zach not to hold back and ask for permission to speak and say, hey, you've spoken a lot. Can I get a chance to get a word in here? That is not an effective use of our time. I think when McZed hyperverbalizes over somebody else's hyperverbalization is a more effective way of combating what they're saying. Could be because you want to get your thought out. Just get your thought out, because part of this is your experience. And in the jumbled, chaotic listener's mind who's listening to all these things happen at once, they are picking apart, literally real time, two people speaking at the same time.
Right. And I also agree with you, because this isn't like what would be the healthiest dynamic of like a one-on-one with someone definitely listening and someone else talking. Because of the interruptions, you get a kind of dogpile, a capitalist enterprise of the best speech trying to compete. Like, someone interrupts because they think that what you're about to say isn't as good as what he's about to say, and you get a dogpile. And like, if it's too unruly, it just becomes noise, and if it's like a nice little pyramid, it can get really insightful. And you're right, I'm just saying that's a dialogue which is nice and interesting and probably more entertaining to listen to, which is why Clubhouse, but it's not therapeutic. The therapeutic thing for any of these people ranting would be a silent, quiet room where someone was listening, more like a phone chat. And then but in this space also, because it's so chaotic and so many entrants, they would have to start to learn how to end it at like a reasonable time. I don't know, it'd be a nice feature for Clubhouse. But either way, I'm simply saying that the one-on-ones are therapeutic, but with the dogpile, you do get these like impassioned interruptions. And those can be like more valuable speech, even though it's rude, which is why, you might be more pro-interruption. And people vary on their taste for interruption.
Well, I've always thought having a room where you create a room and then it has like a 2-minute expiration, because this is technically a debate app. So if it had a timer functionality and then you could pass it or activate it and then basically would mute everybody so you could actually have a coherent conversation instead of the dogpiling?
I'll tell you though, your characterization of this app as a debate app is actually a bit like commenting on yourself. That you see yourself in opposition of any of the people there. With the name Clubhouse, I would infer, and this is my linguistics trying to come up with a definition, it's more like imagine an existing group of friends. Like, I don't think it was per se designed to find new groups. Like, it wasn't discouraging that, but like, imagine an existing group that are just dispersed and they get like phone calls one at a time.
Room.
This would be a clubhouse, a virtual place where we all actually meet.
It's one of the original tools deployed by the internet.
Oh, club chat?
Chatting. It's chatting. Chat.
Yeah, but it's not always
Chatting away.
and you can't always have rooms.
Well, that's what's so cool about the future.
Okay, right. That's the innovation of the thing. But it's chat.
Yeah, but
I wouldn't say it's necessarily debate. I would say that it's just designed for communication.
There's also moan rooms.
What room?
Moan room.
no, I mean debate.
Just a room with a woman moaning.
It's a
McZad,
room for everyone to moan.
McZad,
It's a room.
Zach, please mute up, man.
It doesn't sound that different from all the other rooms on Clubhouse, but go on.
I'm just saying debate in the sense of the pairing of opposites. So there is a natural tendency to create debates, and people use this to publish it on YouTube, etc., because they're publishing debates. And the stupid talking monkey ape, Schwartz room is a rapid debate room, but really then it degenerates into a non-debate and it becomes irascible and stupid. So, it is what it is. But I'm just saying that.
I agree. I think the debate is like the least interesting part, because that's a conflict between two different cultural norms trying to communicate with each other. It's much more interesting to me most of the time to listen to a natural, comfortable conversation in a culture that is not my own. Whether it's like a bunch of Irish, a bunch of Catholic, a bunch of Protestants, a bunch of African Americans, a bunch of Africans, whichever group. If I can like fly on the wall there, that's a different type of dialogue that I literally like just am excluded from by virtue of me not being part of that cultural group.
Okay, so let me ask you this. When you see photos of hundreds of Palestinian militants with their pickup trucks and rifles and face masks, and they're parading out young Israeli girls dressed in, Palestinian fatigues, and it's very chaotic, and they're having these parades and rallies, like, what do they think is going to happen to their long-term ambitions? Or I know they're just living in the moment, but what do these people doing these things over there actually think is going to happen to them? And like, how do they think the outside world views them? Do they just not care?
I think they're stupid and they just don't care.
I wouldn't say they just don't care. I would say they're stupid. I would say that they are reading sources from the outside world. They have higher ups, people that are like thinking through what their next steps will be. Not idiots thinking through their next steps. But you're right a little bit. Like they're children playing dress up, and like they're gonna play this as a victory for themselves for whatever reason. If that's the way they're gonna do it, it's laughable to any adult. But like to them, it's morale building, right? Like you would scoff at any small culture trying to develop its own backbone into a military. Before military has rockets, they have rocks, right? And the Palestinians, this is to them a milestone in their development from rocks to maybe an army.
But when you hear somebody like Edwards say, well, we can get back on the path to the road path to peace and formulation of a state.
It's bullshit.
They're not getting a state.
Yeah, I've heard people.
Who is that guy? Is he Israeli? I'm so confused.
No, he's a Palestinian
Edward
American.
is Palestinian. He's a blind American accountant, I think from Connecticut, who I think his family's from Palestine, or he might have been born there.
How do you
He's an idiot.
how do you take your federal tax return to a blind CPA and have any confidence?
Hey, I mean, like, maybe he's got a lot of Daredevil posters.
Actually, it could be the perfect excuse for committing tax evasion because you can blame it on a blind CPA. He's disabled, Your Honor. It was an honest mistake. He's disabled, Your Honor. All right. And you're Palestinian? All right. Free Palestine. Case dismissed.
The only type of lawyer that could actually make it in the legal profession while being blind would have to be the son of a boxer who was secretly a superhero, because that guy would be like laughed out of every room. He'd have to have the toughest skin. It's ridiculous. He can't read everything. What are you gonna do? So you'd have to be tough.
It's kind of like that Al Pacino scene when he's like at that high school, mock trial or whatever, and he's like, "This whole court is out of order. You're out of order."
That wasn't a mock trial. That was Pacino in what was it?
Yeah.
Was that Boston where he was?
Well, wasn't it a college trial to kick out the kid?
No. That was a straight up. That was a court case. Like he showed up at court, in the name of justice or something. Maybe the color of justice. Either way, he was defending a judge. A judge was being prosecuted for something, and he chose him as defense counsel. And this was like an asshole judge who had thrown away a whole bunch of kids that he had like defended. Poor kids. And then he finds some like photos of the judge doing like S&M sex or something, because this is like a 70s movie. And he goes, that's when he explodes, right? He's like got his opening statement because like, and he finds out that the fix is in, that the judge is going to get off anyway, and that the judge is guilty, and that his kid like just got like killed on the street or something while the judge wasn't like helping him, right? It's more about the corruption of the system. That's why he explodes in the courtroom when he's supposed to be defending the judge. He just like gives up and
Okay, let me ask you a question again about Palestine and Israel.
Watch that movie again.
So, in terms of the people that you have talked with on this app, do you think that everybody here is just adjacent or tangential? And because I don't think I think maybe once or twice I've ever spoken to a legitimate Palestinian on this app. Like I wouldn't call Edward legitimate. I'm talking about somebody who recently left Palestine, somebody who's like from Gaza, from West Bank, that is studying internationally, or
like
it's
that on this app. There was I think a few years ago, at one point, we were hanging out with a guy that was in Gaza at the time, and he was on the phone. And we were like asking how Hamas treated him. Like I remember he said that like they pick up the trash, and if you like don't put out the trash properly, they'll like put you in prison for a day. Right? He like gave that as an example, and I remember that because it was like from a testimony from an actual person.
they run that shit like Nazis.
Well, whatever. I'm just saying, like, they've got to maintain. He said, like, that's what they do. It's like, I get it. You got to maintain, and you got to get the things. They have limited ways of exercising punishment. But, like, trash, it's an important thing, and so you got to get it out. Apparently, day in prison if they catch you. If you're making.
But what happens if you do put it out, and then a donkey, with a cart comes by?
Dude, I don't live there. I talked to a guy that did because of the magic of Clubhouse.
Just being facetious. My point is that like talking to actual indigenous is very rare on this app. You're mostly talking to adjacent propagandists.
Yeah.
Wherever the fuck Prince is from, or wherever or even if you're from Egypt, you're not actually Palestinian. So, or Arab, whatever you are.
Let's narrow it down. In terms of the Arabic adjacent people on this app talking about the Palestinian issue, you're talking about smartphone owners who speak English.
Yeah, most of them are on Androids.
Fine, I just said smartphone. Smartphone owners who speak English.
I'm just saying that
is a limiter.
Well, Soren is a whole different issue. Soren loves to see the whole thing on this app is people think it's like a credibility statement when they say, I have the evidence and putting it in the chat. Here's the link. Show us your link. So Soren is the type of propagandist where he has a bunch of bookmarks stored up and he's ready to rapid fire any piece of content into the chat to try to establish some form of credibility or have content for the communication. So there's just different levels, but there's no like superior propagandist on this app. I mean, with regards to this debate, and
Oh, Israel Palestine?
yeah,
Well, I told you my insight. Start pushing them to elaborate on what they mean that Europeans created it. Europeans from where? France? Belgium?
It's pointless.
No, it's not. It's not pointless. It's not pointless because let me explain. I said the measure of like modernity is acceptance of the history we all know really happened. The Roman Empire, the Ming Dynasty. No one objects to those, right? Even though the British had nothing to do with the Ming Dynasty, they will raise their hands and say, "Yeah, we know this happened." That's modernity. The Arabs are politely dissenting, civilly disobeying all of the edicts of modern acceptance of history, just like so we're all in the same
Politely?
page. Happened.
What do you mean by politely?
Okay, they're impolitely. Well, here's how they're politely doing it.
They're trotting. They're trotting.
No, but here's how they're politely doing it. They are not preaching that all the history books be burned. They are allowing everyone to agree with their accepted secular history, but they believe that they will all eventually lose out, that they'll be gone, that those foolish secular historians that are inventing these stories of ancient Rome, those will be washed away and the only book we'll ever have is the Quran. That is their belief, which is why it doesn't matter. That's how they're politely objecting. They're allowing you to tell your stories because they think it'll be washed away with the truth.
They're cutting off people's heads.
Yeah,
well,
because
wait, I got a follow-up question.
they're NPCs.
I got a follow-up question. Part of I believe this app, having these conversations on this app, in the real world, I would never have a desire to ever have this conversation ever again in the real world with anyone. But so do you think? Well, I mean, it may be private settings, but do you think that I don't think it's true, but somebody like Resistance, on the flip end of that spectrum, he would probably love to have these conversations in the real world because it would maybe validate him more, and he thinks he's developed himself on this app. I'm just saying, to me, I'm the opposite.
Let me explain. Everyone has these conversations. You have these conversations. I have these conversations in private with the people we know and trust who already think like us. And we pretty much get to the same conclusions we always want to get. Here is the weird magical space where we get actual like jury verdicts on our thoughts from our groups in opposition to the other conclusions from other groups, right? All of those guys that think like Jesus did this or Paul did that or Greek Orthodox Catholicism means that, right? Anyone with an opinion, they know they're right because they've got a whole bunch of friends agreeing with them, but they wonder what all of the wrong people on the face of the earth are talking about. And what I'm saying is that the Muslims are doing that with history. That's what the world needs to recognize, that their polite dismissal of accepted true historical facts is a cancer. That's the cause of the problem. They won't acknowledge Rome. They won't acknowledge Byzantium, except that they destroyed it.
So do you think that is the critical educational component in somebody's brain that they have not absorbed and studied?
Yes, it's the history. And that's why I'm asking anyone talking about the Palestinian issue, if they say there's a bunch of fake Jews from Europe coming to colonize the land of Israel, ask them where in Europe. Ask them which king sent them. Ask them what language he or they spoke. Europe is a complicated fucking continent, and they are hiding their ignorance in that one word because everyone stops talking once they say European, because the Europeans track all that history and everyone trusts that, but they're hiding the fact that they don't accept any European history, any of it. They don't know it, they don't want to know it, and they don't believe it even if you told them what it was. That's why you push them to Europe.
So in terms of pairings, like I know this is a special milieu space where we can have these divergent, again, it's just debates, but like, I mean, it takes two to tango. So, like, I mean, I know you like doing these conversations. Norm likes doing these conversations. Many people enjoy it because it gets your dopamine up. But, I mean, without you doing the dance with them, they can't even do the dance. They can't even propagandize necessarily unless they have that strong contrast.
Because listen, think of it like this. I and my Jewish friends, we all play basketball together, and we play, and we've got some good moves within our community. But what if I could play against the other communities? See if I could dunk on some guy with these arguments I've been working out, right? Me and the old guys, we've got a whole bunch of zingers. We've heard all these great one-liners. They have too. And I want to see if my game is better than their game. It's just dunking on each other, back and forth, seeing who's got better game.
Well, anyways, this always goes back to my.
So basically, you're saying it's completely frivolous and masturbatory.
Not exactly, no. It is somewhat frivolous. It is somewhat masturbatory in desire, but not in effect, because it is in fact actual intercourse, if you really want to stick with the analogy, because there is another mind present. When you stare into the abyss stares into you, right? Whatever zingers they work on, they get feedback. They get to know what zingers work. They know if they actually get the slam dunk. They'll say whatever they want. That's just trash talk. And it's true. They'll say that they were amazing, regardless of whatever. But they are also registering whether they were amazing, whether it worked, whether they just embarrassed themselves, whether they maybe want to put the app down and think through some other zingers because these didn't work, right? And that is growth. That is communication. And that's humanity.
Well, that's the thing is people think they're catching these zingers or finding these big hits with their hyperbolic speech that generates them dopamine and the listener the dopamine and the reaction. I mean, I always go back to that maxim. I believe that all communication is hypnosis, implying it's a double-edged sword, but also meaning that the free poly people, they're in the publishing business, like what Aya said. Technically, that's their chosen course of communication, and if they're monetizing it, they're monetizing it. But they're unaware that they are hypnotizing themselves with falsehoods and stupidity and propaganda. But then the corollary, or the other debater, let's say the Jew, is also playing into the hypnosis of their publishing syndication of their content. And so
maybe. I don't necessarily agree with you. I do see some Jews fall sway to Palestinian or secular propaganda, and I don't think they should. I think Israel's pretty strong, really, just on the foundational, the fundamentals of statehood. Its citizenship, its values, its structure, its organization, its employment, its GDP. Its GDP is really impressive. But you're right. That's the chess match of the debate, right? It is communication. They're both getting something out of it. But you're right. The Palestinians may be aiming, or rather, the Palestinian supporters are likely aiming for dollars in some capacity, some marketing campaign for joining the Muslim cause, maybe. Maybe some are just hoping to get more Muslims out of it, right? Whatever benefit they can bestow, maybe their goal is short-sighted, right? That's the chess match. Maybe the Jews are getting more out of it with their discourse.
See, everyone has to have a funnel or a purchase page at the end of whatever they're doing. Otherwise, they are totally mad and insane. And I've just realized that Edward is technically looking for more tax returns to file.
Maybe. I don't know. But I don't agree that you should always be looking for money at the end of your options, especially when it comes to wisdom. There's an old Jewish law against accepting money for teaching Torah. That being said, the Jews, in their dialogue with the Palestinians, are trying to gain something else, things that they usually gain, which is cultural awareness. They're, just like by habit and by need, they have become accustomed to learning about the cultures nearby and all of the gripes that every one of the indigenous have, whether they are represented on the global maps or not, like the Basque. or the IRA, right? Or the Slavs, the Serbians.
And they're protest. Did you see the Serbians are protesting right now? They shut down bridges. They've taken over the city.
What are they protesting today?
High grocery store prices.
And who are they protesting against? The Serbian government?
No, I guess the European distributors.
Austria?
It's like a student. It's like a student revolution or something.
I'm sure. Like Serbia started World War One. Either way. So what I'm saying is that the Jews are doing their usual cultural exchange. They're not trying to gain money. They're trying to gain understanding. And as a result, they are likely to benefit more, even though they may be giving up a lot of dollars that end up falling into Palestinian pockets and not into Jewish pockets. The Jews gain a solid library that they have total control over. They can publish their own understanding and be clear on it for all Hebrew speakers. So, but you're right. You take a hit. You don't get as much money, maybe.
I mean, is Israel not really bilingual, trilingual? I mean, to say that it's like it's a multiple data set system.
If you have Hebrew, you can get around to everyone in Israel. All the Israelis.
Yeah.
All the Israelis speak Hebrew to each other.
So do you think also part of the conflict really does deal with large language data sets, meaning that...
Yes.
Yeah.
Mainly language.
Yeah. So it's like that movie, Cool Hand Luke, where he's like, what we have here is a failure to communicate.
Oh, I guess a little. States should be allocated somewhat around languages.
Listen, if the terrorists of October 7th had a higher IQ and a larger language data set, they never would have done October 7th.
Maybe? I don't know.
Because their intelligence would have been inflated. They would have understand that their strategy would have resulted in massive destruction and annihilation of their efforts. It would have been
not necessarily.
High IQ is not self-destructive, is what I'm saying.
No, listen, it doesn't matter if you have like extra languages. It's really more what your brain is programmed in. So like if their programming is basic Quran Muslim operating system 1.0, which is follow the Quran. It's a perfect guidebook. If it doesn't work now, it will work eventually. Just like chill out and follow the rules, right? Straightforward, simple. You can learn other languages. You can learn Mandarin. You can learn English. You can learn Russian, Swahili. You can talk to all of those people. You still know they're wrong. Because you've got the operating system. That's what the operating system told you to do. Identify these people, explain why they're wrong, i.e., how are they different from what you do? Same thing, right? So the languages wouldn't assist. It's a question of what language root do you have in your culture, and does that language have a healthy expression? Right, the language would be like the root of the thing, but we want good flowers.
I'm not just talking about language per se, as in like English versus Arabic. I'm saying that.
No, I'm talking about people. I'm saying language is a root that creates different flowers, and the flowers are people, the speakers of the language. And if you have a healthy language, it can produce healthy flowers. If you have an unhealthy language, it will produce unhealthy flowers. That just like, are weeds that like choke away the branch and kill off the tree, right? Evil flowers, you could say.
See, when I say large language modeling system, I mean that the archive, the catalog was not there to prevent October 7th.
I'm saying they have not been shown a productive, honest, true expression of Quranic Islam that they can follow other than what they've been doing. This is the most honest they can find is the correct way for them to behave. That's just like a fact. Now, anyone could show them another way, but I'm not of their culture. I can't speak genuine Quranic Islam, but like the person who can and shows them how to follow that book to a T and not do this, that's their Messiah. That's the guy that brings them out of the Dark Ages. But I have no idea who that person is.
Anyways, I mean, if you want, everything always does seem to go back to the movie Dune. I was just talking about how
Moed L'Simcha.
who was the Pritzker here in Chicago is kind of like Baron Harkonnen because he has such a good attitude. He's got such a good attitude, you know, and like so.
Honestly, I've seen so many people try. Nobody beats Lynch's Harkonnen. That guy was disgusting with like the pimples and the oozing, and he's just floating around. Oh man, I just want to watch clips of that guy. That performance was worth the whole movie.
Well, if you just go on YouTube and you type in Dune best scenes from 1984, there's like
I could probably get a supercut.
Yeah, the supercuts.
What age we live in? I think that's one of the early rules of the internet. If you can think of it, there exists on the internet somewhere a pornographic version of it.
Yeah. The interesting thing about programming and YouTube is, if you wanted to program yourself on scripts, and let's say you just type in Tony Soprano's, Tony Soprano 10 hours or best clips. There's so much programming that people have done on themselves in terms of video ingestion through YouTube, through music, through all these things. I mean, so when you look back at the October 7th terrorists and what they were programming themselves on, I mean, I think they were probably, I said this earlier, like when this first happened, I was like, I bet you that they were using PlayStation 5 and Call of Duty because they were all high on meth when they did the incursion. So I'm just saying, as from like the military leader perspective, the people who egged them on and gave them the plans and the coordinates and the time and all the variables in the attack, I mean, they were drugging their soldiers, brainwashing them, prior to the actual attack. So, anyways, I mean, the point is you said earlier in the room, it was your land until October 7th. You've lost it all now. So
yeah, I do think they lost some of the right to the land. Yeah.
So the thing is, though, unless the militants are demilitarized and there's no more guns and no more landmines and rocket propelled grenade launch, I mean, they have to demilitarize. There's no more, okay, we're going to maintain this border and you guys can build back up and start shooting rockets when you're ready again. Like, it's over. Like that, the paradigm has changed.
Adrian, I know that we talk about it like this and it feels like end of the war because they're like exchanging hostages for prisoners. It's not. It has always been a ceasefire. I don't know what's supposed to happen after the hostages get back. They really just want those hostages back. Like, there's literally one of the Israeli newspapers, and this is classic them, has like a banner up showing exactly how many Israeli citizens are missing every single day and how many days they've been missing, right? And the number just got reduced, right? Because a lot of people came back, confirmed deaths, and from all of that, like, there's still a number. Right? The Israelis hold themselves responsible until they get those people back. After that, let's just say hypothetically they get all the people back and everyone's accounted for. I don't know what the heck is supposed to happen in Gaza. I don't know that like Hamas just handed it on a silver platter. I don't know what's supposed to happen.
Well,
None of us do because we are all crazily, while like murderers and rapists are parading around innocent victims. While that is happening, we are sitting idly by because that is the magic of civil society, that we can get more done if we put polite, patient, intelligent people in charge of things. We can save those people rather than just assume it's at zero and keep killing each other, adding bodies to the pile.
Yeah, somebody on my YouTube says, his name is Kinson Prump. What's up, Kitover? The war is over, guys. And, I would just say that if you study philosophy or military, history, you'll know that the war is never over. It is a perpetual, eternal thing. And I think there's probably scripture that backs that up. It says, God is an eternal war. I mean, to that extent, I mean, to think that conflict is over, it's never over.
Just to be clear, Adrian, this is 100% exactly the very same war that started in 1948.
Yeah.
Like it is. It was only ever, look it up in history, only ever a ceasefire. Only ever. Every single fucking time. It's one war, right? Don't let them do their weird propaganda that it's like 18 different wars from like, rock throwing at this person, lynching on that day. No, it's one war. That is why Israel very much is occupying the West Bank as a part of a very earlier battle in this 100 years long war.
Yeah, I guess that's why people study history. So they can essentially get back to the now, which is all important. Then you realize, oh fuck, this isn't just a now war. This has been.
Well, okay, listen. To some degree, Adrian, you've been protected from the burden of historical knowledge. Most people have been, because civil society would be difficult if everyone recorded all of the abuses of the past and made their own personal accounting. Mostly, we do representation. We let other people do it. We let them look like deep into it. If we think there's an issue, like, hey, we haven't looked enough into the Tulsa riots. Totally fair. Raise your hand, call your congressman. He'll raise it up to the House. They'll discuss, say, you know what? Maybe, yeah, let's put some money to it, give it a committee, have a few people with nothing to do, but publish something about the Tulsa City riots, right? We could do that with representation. But you don't do much on your own because we're civil. It would distract too many people, and most people would disagree, and it would result in more conflict. What it really results in when people voice their disagreements, correct or incorrect,
So,
it ends up in the courts.
well, what do you think about somebody like Black Rabbi who says it's all ours? Jordan is ours. Egypt is ours. It's all ours. I mean,
he's delusional. He's just making a claim. He's trying to negotiate with an enemy. He just feels like he doesn't want to lose out on any bargaining position. He'll assert it's completely his, and then he'll disregard all of the claims, all of the history that the rest of the world agrees with. And as a result, he's handicapping himself. He'll think that he's smarter, that he's outsmarted everybody, but everyone around him is going to think of him as a fool because he's just secretly disregarding the facts.
Fado, what's up? Did you want to say something?
I just want to say that after 2 years in Clubhouse, to kill all the other guys, I'm amazed. I finally found peace. Hats off to you guys. I've been just jumping from one room to one room. It's like all the Jews want to kill the Muslim want to kill the Jews. Everyone is infidel and everyone should die. And then finally, sound of wisdom. So guys, keep doing it. I just came to say, keep doing whatever you're doing. Good job.
Well, shalom aleichem.
Wow, what a nice compliment, John. See, he likes your energy. That's very nice of you to say, Mr. Feta.
Well, when people flatter me, I generally, grab my gun and bar my door. Kick him to the goo!
That was in The Notebook. Did you ever see that movie, The Notebook?
Yeah, I saw them filming that in Charleston when I was in college.
Really? You saw the filming? That's so cool.
Yeah, it was.
Well, which part? Like early parts, later parts?
I think they were on King Street or one of the main streets in downtown Charleston. They had the whole block shut off, and I was like,
oh, like when he stops her in traffic or something, like an old timey car, and he stops her on the street.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, that's so cool. Nice.
Why? Are you a fan of that movie or something?
A, yes, it's a good movie. But B, there's one really, really funny bit in that movie. The part of the bit is he comes back from the war, he's broken, she's abandoned him, she thinks that he stopped writing to her, her mother kept all the letters. He stays true to his manliness and builds a house. Or he buys the house he said he would, and then he fixes it up. And then he thinks to sell it, right? Because she's not there, she's engaged, and he's getting drunk as a veteran. So he's trying to sell the house. People try to negotiate with him. He goes nah, not interested. Someone offers I think we could do it at sticker price. And he goes nah, it just doesn't feel like the right match. Then this one guy walks in, and this is Ryan Gosling. He's hanging out there. He's leaning on a car. Guy walks up, big fat carpetbagger type of guy. Walks up and goes, son, I want you to tell me what price you want for this house. And he then walks slowly to his car, opens the door, takes out a shotgun, and cocks it
$2,000. That's more than my asking price. That's right. It's a great deal. Oh.
He told the man that offered him $5,000 over his price that no one in his right mind would do that, and he wouldn't have a lunatic living in his.
I don't remember that. There's a lot of, I don't know. I think that movie's kind of annoying, but definitely better than Dinner with Andre. Okay, this has been a fun morning. Yeah, I agree with everything that Aya has said in the chat. Is there anything you want to say, Aya? If you want to come up or something, because I'm getting ready to retire. Pretty good. Okay, Fedo Zach, hope you had fun. This has been Israel and Palestine Debate Room Part 2 by Wisdom.
Fuck knows. I asked him number one, but he never even. I never heard him really disclose it. He says he's Asian. He says he lived in Saudi and all that before he said though.
Then he's yeah, that's what I mean. Then one moment he's like born in Africa, then he lives in Canada. And then
He said he lived in Saudi first. He said he was living there.
He lived in Saudi, right? It's sort of like I don't know.
Then he moved to Canada or some shit like that.
I'm confused then. Like, what does he have against like Salafism if he lives in Saudi?
Those are radicals.
Oh, okay. I see.
He thinks he's a radical Islam. They have this fake ideology about that.
You know what's so interesting about that statement is I think that comes from a state of ignorance, because the thing is that, like, you know, once you seek more knowledge, then you understand like the works of Abdul Ibn Wahhab, like the purpose of Wahhabism, quote unquote, was just the revitalization of monotheism. So basically, what Abdul Ibn Wahhab did in the 1700s was that he noticed that the Muslims in Saudi Arabia at the time were committing shirk, like the biggest sin in Islam. So when you read his books, you're saying that he basically conceptualized the Tawheed. He in 3 forms. He said Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed al-Uluhiyyah, and Asma wa Sifat, the divine attributes of Allah, you know. And from there came a basic curriculum and stuff like that. So the thing is, the earliest Salafis, in my opinion, were Ibn Taymiyyah.